Part 120. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1191. When they ate melons on the spot, they even ate the biggest one. As expected, Mr. Joe was still so tough. It's quite interesting. Others were enjoying themselves leisurely, but Fu Nanli and Wen Qiao couldn't help but worry. Gu Xiao was a thorn in the old man's heart, like a lump in his throat. Young Master San really couldn't pick up any pot this week, and even mentioned Gu Xiao on the old man's birthday. Fu Nanli looked at Zhou Tingshen with a cold look in his eyes. Young Master Zhou touched his nose and asked deliberately, Didn't I say anything wrong? I thought everyone knew that young Master Fu has a younger brother. That's why you mentioned this, you can't bring it up, right? It would be better not to ask. Fu Huiyang's face became even more ugly. Fu Nanli looked at Fu Cheng, who was not far away. With one look, Fu Cheng understood. He came over with a tall wine glass and put his arms around Zhou Tingshen's shoulders. Master Zhou is here. It's easy for me to find. There was a female star just now. I'm still asking about you. Young Master San was also the source of constant gossip this week. After hearing what Fu Cheng said, his mind immediately became more active. Anyway, his purpose of disgusting Mr. Fu was achieved, so he followed Fu Cheng out. The few wealthy businessmen next to him who had originally planned to eat the melon were not Zhou Tingshen, and they couldn't bear to ask about this scandal about the Fu family, so they all dispersed with their cups in hand. Zhou Tingshen is doing harm to others without benefiting himself. The Zhou family has been oppressed by the Fu family all year round. Even if he can use his words, the most important thing is to make himself happy. It is impossible for the Fu family to get into trouble with the Zhou family over such a trivial matter. Moreover, if the top tycoons make a fuss, it will only give the families below an opportunity to take advantage of them, making it easy for them to avoid commercial sanctions. Fu Nanli and Wen Qiao helped Mr. Fu to the side hall one by one. There was no one in the side hall. Fu Huiyang sat down, very angry. That illegitimate son was the flaw in his perfect life, a failure that he would never admit in his life. The third son of the Zhou family is really generous with his money. Fu Huiyang's face was ashen. In the past, I was afraid that I would be so angry that my blood pressure would rise, which would in turn hurt my body. Fortunately, Wen Qiao helped him control the disease very well. Even if he was suddenly stimulated, at least there was no direct physical manifestation. Fu Nanli comforted him, "Don't take it to heart about Wednesday's words." When Fu Nanli spoke, he looked at his grandfather with his eyes. As for Gu Xiao, he wanted him to recognize his ancestor. Although Gu Xiao had never told him about his situation in front of him, he probably knew that Gu Xiao was an illegitimate child, because Gu Yunzu was now a secret known to everyone. He was also in college. He was looked down upon everywhere. Gu Xiao is a sensitive and thoughtful person. After all, he has the same blood flowing in his body. He hopes that Gu Xiao will become a member of the Fu family. This will reduce Gu Xiao's predicament. Secondly, it will also make things easier. He wants to have a family. My brother's thoughts. But now, he knew that it was not the time to mention this matter to his grandfather. Otherwise, the old man might be really angry with him. Can I not take it to heart? I don't know how many people are talking about this behind my back, just to see our Fu family's jokes. Leave it to them. Who doesn't have anything to talk about? Wen Qiao echoed, "Yes, Grandpa Fu." His entanglement with two female stars just that Wednesday made headlines of entertainment gossip. His father has also been in constant gossip news. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1192. Fu Huiyang chuckled, "The Zhou family is in trouble. They never care about this. Our Fu family is different from theirs. But Nanli's father has passed away. He can't find anyone to blame him, so he can only sulk by himself. Fu Nanli waved to Uncle Li and asked him to bring over some of his grandfather's close friends. Those grandfathers knew his grandfather best and could chat with him. After everyone came over, Fu Nanli took Wen Qiao to the terrace. There were two people on the terrace drinking wine leaning on the railing. When they saw Mr. Fu coming, they gave up their place. Your grandfather seems to have a big prejudice against Gu Xiao. Fu Nanli leaned lazily on the hollow railing and played with Wen Qiao's fingers. It is true. Wen Qiao's expression was solemn. Is there any hope of clearing Gu Xiao's name? He is him, Gu Yunzu is Gu Yunzu, forget it. It seems that I have no room to comment on your Fu family's affairs. Fu Nanli squeezed his finger hard. Wen Qiao narrowed his eyes. It hurts. Why can't you say anything about the Fu family? You are the future young lady of the Fu family, so you can say whatever you want. Wen Qiao pouted. Then what do you think of what I just said? Fu Nanli took a sip of red wine and put the glass aside. I will find a way to convince Grandpa. Wen Qiao knew that Fu Nanli wanted to recognize this younger brother. But it was too ugly to be interfered with by Gu Yunzu at that time, and the Fu family was also being held up. It was neither acknowledgement nor denial. All in all, Gu Yunzu, this idiot, delayed his son and made his son the target of public criticism. I hope one day your grandfather can recognize Gu Xiao. After all, the child is always right. It was Gu Yunzu who was wrong, and Gu Xiao was innocent. Fu Nanli and Wen Qiao were on the second floor, looking through the window sill. One or two more cars stopped, and it was Lu Wenzhou who got out of the car. Fu Nanli raised his eyebrows. He's here anyway. Wen Qiao, all the famous people are coming here. Isn't it normal for him to come here because he gave your grandfather face? He never came to Grandpa's birthday before. After all, although they are both wealthy people in Heikan and Kyoto, they cannot get along with each other, so there is no contact between them. Wen Qiao knew that he came here to give Zhou Tao face. After all, she was Zhou Tao's boss. It's just that Zhou Tao's hang was on the set of the palace drama Love in Mountains and Rivers tonight and didn't come over, but second young master Lu was very supportive. Lu Wenzhou was greeted by Fu Chuan downstairs. Lu Wenzhou just nodded lightly, then went to say hello to Mr. Fu. After delivering the gift, he took a glass of wine and stood in the corner without socializing. Occasionally someone came up to talk to him, and he responded perfunctorily. He knew the importance of Wen Qiao to Zhou Tao, so he was willing to give Wen Qiao face. To give Wen Qiao face, he had to give face to the Fu family, so he came here. Upstairs, Fu Nanli asked Wen Qiao, it's Grandpa's birthday, have you prepared any gifts? Wen Qiao raised his eyebrows. Why did you ask for it? What? If I don't give you a gift, will your grandpa be unhappy? Fu Nanli chuckled. It's okay to be unhappy. It's just that there are many guests today. As you know, those people are worried about the world being in chaos. If you can't give an original gift today, those people will probably talk about it when they go home. Wen Qiao chuckled. I prepared a gift, but I'm not sure if your grandpa will like it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiaxu. Chapter 1193. Does this mean my grandfather is picky? Wen Qiao glanced at him. You are so picky. Another car stopped downstairs, and He Wan got out of the car. He Yan had been in prison for a year and had been released. He Wan's parents almost no longer interact with the Fu family, but He Wan occasionally comes back. He would get together with Fu Nanli. He didn't want to lose the best friend in his life who understood him best because of his sister. Therefore, today is Mr. Fu's birthday, so he also came here. Fu Nanli took Wen Qiao downstairs and greeted He Wan. He Wan still behaves like a noble young master, and there seems to be no grudge between him and Fu Nanli, but only the two of them know that something has changed after all, and they are trying to ignore the rift caused by He Yan. Grandma Fu Nanli was the last one to arrive. She came to congratulate Fu Huayong on his birthday in person. Fu Huayong was so proud that his depressed mood on Wednesday had eased. Lin Yui brought a bracelet with Buddhist beads and gave it to the old man, saying that it was personally ordained by the abbot at the most popular temple in Shaocheng, and that it would bless him with good health and a happy family. This gift was given sincerely, and Fu Huayong thanked his mother-in-law repeatedly after accepting it. When all the guests arrived, only Wen Qiao's gift was left. The third young man of the Zhou family really just wanted to watch the fun and not take it too seriously. He happened to be a little tipsy and said with the help of alcohol, "Mr. Fu, you haven't given the gift to your future granddaughter-in-law yet. Miss Wen, on such an important day, you shouldn't have come here empty-handed, right?" After all, when Wen Qiao came over, many people saw it, and indeed he didn't have any gifts in his hand. Is this little girl confident because of Mr. Fu's favor? This is too outrageous. Wen Qiao tilted his head and smiled. How does Mr. Zhou know that I haven't prepared a gift? Whether or not to send a gift should not be your concern as an outsider. Zhou Tingshen was choked and wanted to say that this Wen Qiao was really capable of stabbing people. Naturally, the Fu family is a famous aristocrat, so there is no way for young Master Zhou to embarrass him in person, but Wen Qiao is not from a famous family, so she can say whatever she wants. Fu Nanli also acted as if I had spoiled her. This girl is a quick talker. If you, young Master Zhou, are as knowledgeable as a little girl, then you are too petty. Wen Qiao added, originally, I wanted to give it to Grandpa Fu privately, but Mr. Zhou was so urgent that I had to send the gift out in advance. Zhou Ting smiled awkwardly. So what gift did Miss Wen prepare? Mr. Fu lacks everything, and many people are eagerly looking forward to seeing what gifts the future granddaughter-in-law has prepared. It can't be measured in money, but it has to be meaningful, which is really difficult. Wen Qiao whispered to Mr. Fu, we have to ask everyone to move to the farm behind. What's the meaning? The gift I gave you is on the farm out back. In fact, she had been preparing this gift for a long time, and finally it was ready on the old man's birthday. Fu Huayong asked the important guests to get on the Fu family's sightseeing bus and drive to the farm behind. 10 minutes later, the car parked in front of the huge farm. Important guests came by sightseeing car, and there were also some eager guests because the sightseeing car was not enough, but they really wanted to see the future granddaughter-in-law of the Fu family. What kind of gift did you give the old man? He came here on foot. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1194. Even Fu Nanli didn't know what gifts Wen Qiao had prepared, which made her feel unsure. After all, the battle was a bit big and everyone was staring at her. She can be regarded as riding a tiger. Zhou Tingshen couldn't help but said, Miss Wen, don't be so secretive. Let us open our eyes to what the gift is. What good things could come from this farm? Wen Qiao clapped his hands twice, and Uncle Li came over with a small remote control in his hand. Fu Nanli squinted at Uncle Li. Even Uncle Li knew it, but his boyfriend didn't know it. Uncle Li felt a little cold on the back of his neck. Wasn't that Xiao Wen's idea? Wen Qiao pressed the button on the remote control, and a large shed covered with white plastic sheeting slowly opened at the back. The headlights on the roadside were turned on, and about 2 acres of land appeared in front of everyone. Inside were neat seedlings. About a foot tall, glowing green, and full of life. Everyone was stunned. What is this? Wen Qiao walked over and supported Mr. Fu. Come here for a moment. Walking to the edge of the field, Wen Qiao squatted down and grabbed a handful of soil. This is the black soil of the northeast. Rice in the northeast can only grow on this soil. I spent half a year improving this 2-acre land. The acid and alkali conditions of the soil are 100% modeled on the soil in the northeast, as well as the lighting and climate here. Therefore, these 2 acres of land are used to cultivate organic northeast rice. No pesticides are used at all. It is healthy, green and pollution-free. From now on, Grandpa Fu can eat organic northeast rice grown on his own farm. Fu Huaiyang was very surprised. She really meant this gift. What she gave was health, and it didn't happen overnight. Cultivating the soil and growing organic food was a gift that really went to his heart. Not only is it laborious, but it is also sincere, and it is a very meaningful gift. Fu Nanli was also a little surprised. He didn't even know when Wen Qiao started preparing all this. Looking at the smile on his grandfather's face, he knew that this gift was thoughtful and precise. Xiaonazai is really smart and knows what to give to the old man to make him happy. At this old age, what the old man cares most about now is his health, and she really does what he likes. Fu Huaiyang praised, "Okay, okay, you are thoughtful. I like this gift very much." This was the first time that Mr. Fu praised her so frankly in front of everyone. Wen Qiao smiled slightly, "Grandpa Fu, just like it?" Ye Mingqiu took advantage of the situation and said, "You still call me Grandpa Fu? Just call me Grandpa, silly girl." Fu Huaiyang did not refute. Wen Qiao pursed his lips and called him Grandpa. Fu Huaiyang also agreed, which was a complete show of respect. Those rich and famous people came to attend Wen Qiao's gift-giving session. A group of celebrities wearing suits and leather shoes stood on the ridge of the fields. Most people were puzzled as to why the old man was so happy after giving away 2 acres of rice. Many of them are very pretentious and only use price to measure one thing. In their eyes, Wen Qiao's gift is not worth much. It can only be said that Mr. Fu is more tolerant as he gets older. The last few people in the crowd were talking quietly and sneered from time to time. But no matter how much they despise it, Mr. Fu does, so this gift is the right one, and it is more meaningful than anyone else's. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1195. Fu Huaiyang got on the sightseeing car with a red face, and his happiness was beyond words. Everyone murmured in their hearts, "No wonder Wen Qiao was able to conquer Master Fu. He seemed to be a capable man and knew how to prescribe the right medicine." On the way back to the mansion, Fu Nanli held Wen Qiao's hand and whispered, "How come I don't know at all?" Wen Qiao smiled and said, "Actually, I have prepared it a long time ago. I asked Uncle Li to keep it a secret for me. Your farm has vegetables and fruits, and you also have an acre of land to grow rice, but the rice here is. I heard that the old man prefers the northeast. Long grain rice, so that's the plan." Fu Nanli pinched her face, "You even hid it from me. I want to give your grandpa a surprise." It actually gave me a surprise as well. Thank you for your hard work. Wen Qiao shrugged, "As long as your grandpa likes it. It's not like all the hard work was in vain." Fu Nanli took him into his arms, accompanied by stars in the sky, and followed them all the way back to the Fu family mansion. Everyone drank at night, and the atmosphere was still harmonious. Mr. Zhou drank a lot of wine. At the end of the banquet, he came over again. This time he did not make the old man uncomfortable. He came to persuade Fu Nanli and said with a smile, "Young Master Fu, if you ask me, that Gu Xiao is also your brother after all, so you should bring him back. Celebrities like us still value things like blood, so you should suffer a little loss and recognize your brother to prevent him from living outside. If Gu Xiao is being discriminated against, isn't it just your Fu family who is being discriminated against?" Fu Cheng gritted his teeth. This Wednesday, he would talk nonsense after drinking some wine. It was really annoying. Fu Nanli's face was ashen. Wen Qiao smiled sweetly, "May I ask what Mr. Zhou's last name is? What is Zhou Tingshan's real crime?" It's just that he was laughing at the Fu family under the influence of alcohol. After all, he usually wouldn't get such an opportunity. "Since you call me Mr. Zhou, how come you don't know that my surname is Zhou?" Wen Qiao smiled, "I know your surname is Zhou. I'm afraid you don't know your surname is Zhou. Since you know your surname is Zhou, why do you always have to point fingers at the Fu family's affairs? You don't have to interfere in the Fu family's affairs." Fu Nanli lowered his head and smiled. Then he put his arms around Wen Qiao's waist and looked at Zhou Tingshan with a smile. "Xiao Nizai is young and ignorant. If you offend young Master Zhou, then just accept it. Don't be as knowledgeable as a little girl." Zhou Tingshan really seemed to have eaten a fly. Fu Nanli had already said that, what else could he say? Haha, how could it be possible? Xiao Wen is outspoken and outspoken. I think it's very good and interesting. Wen Qiao simply pretended to be unruly and willful, took Fu Nanli's hand and walked out, muttering, "You are really nosy, you are full after eating." The sound was neither light nor heavy, just enough to reach the ears of Zhou Tingshan and the surrounding guests. Several people were whispering and looking at her wonderfully. Young Master Fu's girlfriend was really interesting. Even if people from wealthy families had twists and turns in their hearts, they would never show it on their faces. Well, she was so kind and relieved. Zhou Tingshan finally kicked the hard steel plate. Going to the yard outside, Wen Qiao whispered, "This Zhou Tingshan is really too much. You can just give him a few words to save him from doing this next time." Wen Qiao put his hands loosely on his waist. "It's just this matter about Gu Xiao, how do you plan to solve it?" Fu Nanli frowned, "Take your time. You also know what the old man's temper is like. It took him a long time to accept you. Gu Xiao's situation is even more complicated. This matter cannot be rushed." Wen Qiao couldn't say anything. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1196. Gu Xiao is a sensitive person, and now everyone knows that he is an illegitimate child. If this continues, it will definitely have a great impact on his psychology. She had to ask the club psychiatrist to give him some counseling. The banquet ended smoothly. Fu Nanli sent a few friends out. He also gave Lu Wenzhou a courtesy. Lu Wenzhou stood by the car door and finally couldn't help but ask Wen Qiao, "Is she on the set?" He didn't even dare to go on a visit. After all, it was exposed that he was married to Zhou Tao. Whenever he appeared in the theater, the reporters who heard about it would make a fuss. Seeing that he was a little humble, Wen Qiao replied, "Everything is fine. It's just that there was a slap scene yesterday." She asked the actress in the same crew to do it. It took several times to film that scene, and her face was a little red and swollen. Lu Wenzhou felt quite uncomfortable after hearing this. The road of being an actor is really difficult, with ups and downs. No one knows what they will face tomorrow. With him supporting her several times, her journey was extremely dangerous. "Got it, thank you." He stooped into the car and the car slowly drove away. Wen Qiao felt a little strange. Then came He Wan, and Fu Nanli took the initiative to hug him. "Thank you for attending tonight." He Wan smiled, "Do we need to talk about this between us?" Fu Nanli smiled lightly, "Okay, don't tell me, but be careful on the road." "Okay, you and Xiao Wen can go in, there's no need to send them off." Fu Huaiyong personally sent his mother-in-law to the door. Ye Mingkaiu accompanied the old lady back to the mansion. The old lady held Wen Qiao's hand, Chiao, come in quickly. Grandma, I'm watching you get in the car. Tonight's dinner was a happy one, and the guests and hosts had a great time. When He-Wan returned home, he saw his sister He-Yan. He-Yan had been in jail for a year and had lost her face. Now she was even more depressed than before. When he saw He-Wan coming back, his eyes were raised. He-Wan told what happened at the birthday party. The old man also likes Wen Qiao very much now. Thinking about all the useless work she had done before, it seemed really pointless now. He-Yan said coldly, "Brother, why are you telling me this? I know that girl is so skillful that she even conquered the old man. You just came out, take some rest, and then join my company to help. If you are willing, I will introduce you to another boyfriend." He-Yan sneered, "Boyfriend? Can I still find a boyfriend? Is there anyone willing to accept my dark history? It's okay to do something wrong. What's important is that you can change your ways. As long as you live a positive life, there will be people who don't mind your past." He-Yan snorted softly, seemingly unconcerned, but did not refute. He-Wan clicked his tongue, "You are still young, don't get depressed because of a little setback. The ones I introduce to you are naturally the best. I just hope you don't look down on others." The He family claimed that she had accidentally hurt Fu Nanli. Fu Nanli gave He-Wan a lot of face and did not come forward to expose it. Therefore, as long as He-Yan is willing, she can still live a normal life after she comes out. He-Yan said humbly, "I know." There was a trace of cruelty in his eyes. In the Fu family mansion, the guests finally dispersed. It was late at night. Fu Nanli took Wen Qiao back to his room. Today, she was forcibly detained and had to spend the night here. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me. The boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1197. The old man had no objection, so she stayed as a matter of course. She was still wearing the crimson one-shoulder mermaid dress and sat in front of the dressing mirror to remove her earrings. Her earlobes were red after chasing the earrings for so long. Fu Nanli sat back at the dressing table and stretched out his hand to help her. Where would he be? It hurt Wen Qiao's ears. The little girl's eyes seemed to be filled with mist. She looked up at him with innocent eyes. "What are you doing?" Fu Nanli quickly let go. "You'd better do it yourself." Wen Qiao took off her earrings and glared at him. Fu Nanli reached out and rubbed her earlobes. "Does it still hurt? My ear seems to be congested, can it stop hurting?" "It hurts." Fu Nanli gently helped her twist it, and Wen Qiao took off the necklace from her neck and put it in his hand. "This is the first gift you gave me." At that time, it was like she had a hot potato. Whenever he gave her something, she would think of giving him something in return. "It matches you very well, very beautiful." He picked him up, reached out and pressed the remote control, and the lights in the bedroom dimmed. He carried her towards the bed with tenderness in his eyes. The autumn breeze was blowing outside. On Jing'an Road, Gu Xiao was still sitting at the desk. Some guests posted on Weibo about the gift Wen Qiao gave her, and the internet was full of praise, saying that she was very considerate. No matter how expensive a gift you give to a rich person, in the eyes of others, it can all be measured by price, but this kind of heart is priceless. Someone took a photo and posted it online. He saw that the majestic, unsmiling grandfather seemed to be smiling, and he smiled very kindly, which was very different from the image of the person in his impression. So he can laugh too, he thought. The next morning, Wen Qiao received a call from Zhao Xia, saying that she and Ren Chao had arrived in Haikan and would donate blood to her today. Wen Qiao went to Fu Nanli's private hospital with Fu Nanli and Su Si. Zhao Xia and Ren Chao entered the hospital and saw that the doctors, nurses and staff of the hospital were respectful to Mr. Fu. After quietly asking around, they found out that the hospital belongs to Master Fu, so I can't help but be speechless. You have to be so rich to have a hospital. Li Fang first examined Zhao Xia and made sure that she had no physical problems and met the conditions for blood donation. Then he drew 600 ml of her blood. Su Ce did a blood test on the spot and confirmed that Zhao Xia's blood was consistent with Akiao's is the same and can be donated to her. The couple donated blood, and Wen Qiao left them to rest in Haikan for 2 days. They stayed in the most luxurious 5-star hotel. Fu Nanli's driver, Lao Hu, personally drove them around the big city. Only then did Zhao Xia and Ren Chao realize that the young master of the Fu family was very powerful in Haikan. Fortunately, these two people are both down-to-earth people. They feel very sorry that such a big shot is still busy with the affairs of the couple. After returning to Hangzhou, I specially sent some souvenirs to thank them for their help to their family. In Fu Nanli's apartment, sweet potatoes, taro, and other vegetables were spread out on the kitchen floor. Mr. Fu didn't know how to distinguish between grains and grains. He had only seen the appearance of these vegetables being served on the table, so he couldn't tell which was which for a moment. Wen Qiao introduced them to him one by one, and Mr. Fu looked like he had learned a lesson. Then let's eat steamed sweet potatoes and taro tonight, and stir-fry 2 fresh vegetables. While the two of them were working together to make dinner, over at the Film and Television City, Lu Wenzhou's car was parked outside the Mountain and River Love set. Through the crowd, he could vaguely see Zhou Tao filming a scene. According to Wang Hui, the most recent scenes are about the character played by Zhou Tao who has fallen out of favor in the harem, so she is almost bullied, which is quite miserable. She is either slapped in the face or kneeled down as a punishment. Today seems to be a scene of being punished by kneeling. Not only is it punished by kneeling, but it also rains. I recommend a new book by my good gay friend Tuzi. It's super interesting and very interesting. Click below to get a direct link. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1198. Wang Hui was extremely anxious. Second master, it's quite cold today. It's still raining. Don't you get sick? Lu Wenzhou discovered that he could always see Zhou Tao when he was in the most difficult, embarrassing and heart-wrenching moments. He got out of the car. It wasn't raining here. They used a sprinkler truck at the filming site to make artificial rainfall. In autumn, the temperature hovered around 10 degrees. He wore a suit and the cold wind swept through him. He knew how cold it would be if rain poured down on his head. He walked to the back of the staff, and the rain fell, only pouring on Zhou Tao and the palace maid beside her. Wearing thin clothes, she knelt outside the vermilion palace gate. The rain poured down on her, and her left cheek was vaguely red and swollen. As Wen Qiao said, she was slapped. In order to achieve a realistic effect, people actually slapped her, and they took several pictures. Lu Wenzhou felt as if his heart was grabbed by something, his breathing was a little rough, and he felt so stuffy that he couldn't breathe in the autumn night. Her maid was reading her lines and seemed to have trouble reading them smoothly, so the director stopped her several times. Ting Ting, you are in a resentful mood now. You are complaining about your master. You feel that a mere nobleman can make your master kneel down. But because you are just a palace maid, although you are angry, you still have something to gain. Don't worry, don't dare to complain and curse unscrupulously, you have to control that, you know? The girl named Ting Ting nodded. Director, I understand. Zhou Tao's scene is pretty good. Ting Ting, you have to get into the scene quickly, otherwise it's too cold today and you might catch a cold if you get wet in the shower, you know. Ting Ting rubbed her hands, and 2 makeup artists touched up their makeup. Zhou Tao whispered a few words to Ting Ting and analyzed the character's psychology. Ting Ting took a deep breath. Let's try to get it over again this time. The director shouted action, and Zhou Tao knelt down again. Ting Ting said angrily, that Huigi is really hateful. He dares to ignore you because he is the emperor's new favorite. You are a concubine. She is a noble person, how can she punish you to kneel here, master? I will go find the emperor. Zhou Tao lowered his eyes. No, the emperor won't see you, just kneel down, it's only half an hour. Ken. Okay, no need to say more. Finally, this one passed smoothly, and Xiao Ai immediately rushed over with a coat and a thermos cup. Dizzy, hurry up and get in the car with me and change out of your wet clothes. Xiao Ai pulled Zhou Tao towards the nanny car nearby. Zhou Tao seemed to see a familiar figure. At the end of the crowd, his eyes were looking towards her. He was wearing a dark suit and standing in the autumn wind. It was quiet. She couldn't help but look at it twice more, and then Xiao Ai dragged her into the nanny car. In the car, Xiao Ai hurriedly helped Zhou Tao change into clothes, and then handed the thermos cup over. Drink the ginger tea I prepared early in the morning. Hurry up and drink it. Is it cold? Zhou Tao smiled and shook her head, and Xiao Ai touched her hand. You, just be brave. That Ting Ting is really stuck. She always gets stuck, causing you to be soaked in cold water for so long. Zhou Tao said with a smile, don't say this outside. She has already performed very well. It is normal for her to be unable to get into the mood for a while. Xiao Ai sighed, I just feel sorry for you. Tell me, in the recent scenes, I either got slapped or kneeled down. This character is too miserable. There are gains and losses. Although she is in trouble now, she will get up later and eventually become the Queen Mother. Isn't it like this for everyone? There are ups and downs. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1199. Fortunately, there's nothing to do today. I'll take you home first. The nanny car drove through the deserted streets. Zhou Tao returned to her apartment without any problems, took a hot bath, then poured a glass of red wine and sat in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, reading the script and memorizing lines while drinking. The phone vibrated, and she thought, worried that it was Lu Wenzhou, and she seemed to have a small hope in a corner of her heart. She didn't know what she was hoping for. I picked up the phone and saw that it was Song Yuchen calling. Zhou Tao breathed a sigh of relief. Although she knew that Song Yuchen was pursuing her, Zhou Tao felt no pressure at all when getting along with him. Maybe it was because of his openness and uprightness. She was a little tired from life and always envied such people. Xiao Ai said that she and Song Yuchen were actually quite suitable. Song Yuchen was sunny and lively and could bring her happiness. But she has experienced a lot, and she no longer has confidence in love. She looks forward and backward, worrying about gains and losses. She still feels that work is the best. As long as she works hard, she will see results. Not men. She can't fathom a man's heart. I heard that you filmed a rain scene today, Song Yuchen asked straight to the point. Well, we were filming a scene in the rain. How did you know? Of course it's because I'm familiar with the people on your crew. Listen to what they say. I'll buy some food and send it to you. Zhou Tao quickly refused, no. No, it's too late. How can a female star have a late-night snack? I'll buy some low-calorie ones, just wait for me. When Zhou Tao injured her foot before, Song Yuchen sent her back again, so he knew her address, and it was hard to refuse his kindness. Zhou Tao knew that even if she refused, he would still come. After hanging up the phone, Zhou Tao looked at the time. It was 10 o'clock, and tomorrow morning's show was at 8 o'clock. There was still plenty of time. She had nothing to do, so she browsed the internet, and somehow, she found Lu Wenzhou's Weibo homepage. There are only 2 Weibo posts on his homepage, both of which are for clarification for her. One was the time when she came to ask him for clarification and he accidentally scratched her with a sword, and the other was the time when news came out that they were married not long ago. The homepage seems empty. There were quite a lot of messages. After all, Lu Wenzhou's photos had appeared on Weibo. He was a handsome young man and a top celebrity. People like him, except for his previous personality, could easily fall into the trap of little girls. The comments on both Weibo accounts reached over 100,000, and the people in the front row were all his fans. Zhou Tao smiled softly, her mood a little subtle. The phone suddenly vibrated again. The video call from Lu Wenzhou actually made Zhou Tao feel a little hot. Her mentality when she received the call from Song Yuchen was completely different. She didn't know what her mentality was. Anyway, when she saw the words Lu Wenzhou, she felt her breathing become a little short. After hesitating for a while, she finally answered the phone. Is something wrong? Her voice always had a hint of hoarseness and nasality, and it sounded like gently tapping his heartstrings through the phone. Lu Wenzhou was lost in thought for a few seconds. The person over there asked again, and he finally came back to his senses. I bought some porridge, it's outside your community. He knew which community she lived in, but he didn't know which building she lived in. Zhou Tao choked on her words. No. No need, I don't eat late night snacks at night. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1200. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Wenzhou saw a black Porsche with the window half opened. The person inside seemed to be telling the doorman which building he was going to, and he saw the star Song Yuchen in the driver's seat. Lu Wenzhou didn't know how to describe the feeling at that moment. He just felt chest tightness and shortness of breath. Song Yuchen could go see her, but he, Lu Wenzhou, couldn't. Zhou Tao couldn't avoid him, and he felt his chest was severely clogged. The phone didn't hang up, and soon he heard the doorbell ringing from the other end. Probably Song Yuchen had arrived. Zhou Tao's panicked voice was so powerful. Well, I'll hang up first. The call was hung up over there. Lu Wenzhou was sitting in the car, feeling confused for a moment. Wang Hui didn't dare to look at his second master, and he knew that the second master had been rejected again. He was probably jealous of Song Yuchen, but he didn't seem to have the right to be jealous now, but all this was his own choice. He wanted to persuade the second master to get divorced so quickly, but the second master insisted on going his own way, and now he is really reaping the consequences. Second master, do you want to leave? Lu Wenzhou said indifferently. Wait a minute. What are you waiting for? He actually doesn't know either. Zhou Tao lived in a large flat, and she was the only one on the first floor, so Song Yuchen rang the doorbell at the door, and she opened the door quickly. Song Yuchen wanted to go in. Zhou Tao actually didn't want him to come in, but before she could say her refusal, Song Yuchen walked into her house without hesitation. Have you had ginger tea? It was like an old friend she had known for a long time, caring about her in a familiar tone. Zhou Tao actually doesn't dare to make friends in this circle. She always seems to be smiling on the set and on the show. In fact, she doesn't have many friends because Xiao Ai told her that people in this circle have ulterior motives. I smile at you and stab you in the back too many times to be able to have a heart-to-heart talk with my peers. But sometimes she feels lonely and longs for friends. Song Yuchen's tone makes her feel quite warm. Drink. Xiao Ai let me have a big drink when we got in the car. Don't catch yourself a cold. Carrying a bag of takeout, he walked to the dining table, helped her untie it, and took out the lunch box. It was a bowl of abalone and mushroom porridge. The recipe was quite light, not greasy, and warm. Eat quickly, I guess your dinner didn't taste very good. Actresses always work very hard. Today, I was caught in the rain, and I still have to feel a little warm in my stomach before I can bear it. He had participated in variety shows before and had fallen into water, so he was quite experienced. When Jo Tao was eating porridge, she was a little absent-minded. Song Yuchen kept talking to her, but for some reason, she was thinking that Lu Wenzhou didn't know whether he had left or not. Lu Wenzhou didn't leave. His car parked quietly outside the community, his eyes always fixed on the door, but he never saw Song Yuchen's car coming out. He looked at his watch and at the door for 40 minutes. He didn't see Song Yuchen coming out after waiting for 40 minutes. He lost his mind and was jealous and annoyed. Why should Jo Tao be treated differently? Since she doesn't want to fall in love, why can Song Yuchen stay in her house for so long? What are they doing? Song Yuchen had made it clear that he liked her, and she still kept him here. Does this mean that she was also interested in Song Yuchen? He suddenly fell into a huge loss. Song Yuchen was similar in age to her, and they were in the entertainment industry and had similar experiences. They should have a lot in common.